Are you thinking about going plant-based but feel it is way too expensive? Hey, I'm Amanda Pelletier with Live Grow Green, and today I'm going to be talking about 5 really easy ways that you can eat plant-based on a budget. So before we get started, if you're interested in plant-based lifestyle, feel free to hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit the bell so you're notified every time we put out a new video like this on Thursdays. So if you think going plant-based or even going vegan is super expensive, today I'm going to be sharing 5 really easy ways that you can make plant-based work for you and make it work within your budget. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure you're buying dried legumes. So these are things like dried lentils, dried chickpeas, dried beans, and the reason that you want to buy dried versus the canned is because you get so many more servings for your money as opposed to the canned version. And I'm not saying don't buy the canned, especially if a specific recipe calls for it, or if you're making something like hummus that tends to work much better with a canned as opposed to the dried. But really, when it comes to the vast majority of your cooking, you want to focus on the dried because it will save you so much money in the long run. And cooking wise, you can portion out exactly what you need when you need it and not worry about, hey, I have to use this entire can or I'm using a can and a half and worry about that. You can actually portion control and it is cost saving as well. So that's a double bonus. So my next tip is kind of similar to the dried legumes. You want to make sure that you're buying bulk grains. So you want to make sure that you're buying something like a bag of rice as opposed to a box mix because there are so many more servings in a bag of rice as opposed to a box mix. And oftentimes, unfortunately, there are a lot of box mixes that aren't vegan. So you might not even be able to use the seasoning packet anyway. So it is just so much more cost effective to make sure that you're buying this in bulk as opposed to a single serving or for a single recipe. So my next tip is to focus on frozen foods, in particular fruits. So if you're worried about the cost of fresh fruits and veggies, a great alternative to this is frozen foods. So you can get most fruits and vegetables frozen and they cost on average much less than the fresh versions and they last much longer, and of course you can portion them out as you need it. So if you're in an area that it's particularly expensive to get fresh vegetables or you just want something to last longer, in particular berries, I know that's something that I usually buy frozen. It works so much better that way and it's much cheaper. So my next tip is to make sure that you're avoiding pre-cut and pre-cooked foods. So you want to make sure that you're avoiding things like pre-prepped fruit or even things like pre-cooked meats. And the reason for this is that you're paying for time saved. So you're paying extra to have someone cut your fruit or pre-cook your meats. And really you can do this so much more effectively and save some money as well. Usually you only save maybe about 5 or 10 minutes tops, especially with the fresh fruit. Maybe pre-cooked beets, maybe 15-20 minutes. Depending on the size of the beets. And these are things that, it's great in a pinch, but when you're looking to save money week to week, you want to make sure that you're opting in for the fresh or the frozen versions instead. So my final tip is to focus on homemade foods as opposed to packaged and processed foods. So I don't know if you've been down the cheese aisle lately, but vegan cheese is still really expensive. And the same thing goes for, frozen foods like Beyond Meat or even things like chicken alternatives. Those things are still pretty expensive, especially if you want to buy them week to week. It's really just not cost effective. So making your own versions of these is actually a lot simpler than you might think. And really it helps you save a lot of money in the long run too. So I wanted to leave you with 2 really easy vegan recipes that you can home make that are super cost effective. So the first is for vegan ice cream and the base is just frozen banana. You can add fresh fruit, frozen fruits, any flavors like maple syrup, almond butter, peanut butter, vegan chocolate, what have you. Whatever flavor you're trying to create, you can make it very easily in a blender, and it is super cost effective comparatively. So the last thing that I wanted to leave you with was a recipe for vegan cheese. So potatoes and carrots make a great base for vegan cheese with a little bit of nutritional yeast and spice, and you have an awesome vegan cheese that is so much more budget friendly than buying vegan cheese already in the store. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified every time we put out a new video like this on Thursdays. Until next time.